Hey guys, what is up? Kid here of Burn 1 with the Shadowverse Evolve channel, bringing you a new deck profile. This time I'm bringing you one on a list I put together myself. I'm calling it Ramp Flaming Glass. It's obviously Dragoncraft, with the main focus being Flaming Glass here. I'm not sure how competitive this list is, but I've been taking this list to locals and casual games and have been having a lot of fun with it. I'm not sure if this is like going to win you like shop championships or anything like that, but definitely if you want to show up to a smaller local and have a lot of fun piloting a list around Flaming Glass, I think this works very well. With that being said, we'll just get right into the deck itself. All right, so here is the deck list itself. We'll just jump right into it. So first off, we're playing 3 of Bellringer Angel. I hope everyone understands how powerful this card is. We're kind of sacrificing some slots in the list, playing Harnessed Flame and Harnessed Glass. Yeah, that's what it's called. So because of that, we're not going to be able to have as many like free slots to use like tools to stop like aggro game plans. So Bellringer Angel is a very powerful early drop that you have the Evo form, which we play as one of. It lets us, block some damage while getting rid of an early aggressive play by your opponent. It's really, really powerful. We never really want to evolve it more than once, so it only takes up one slot in the deck. And then, a one-drop ward that also draws you a card later in the game to like protect the early played Flaming Glass or something like that is always going to be good. We play 3 of Blazing Breath here. This is just a very powerful pay 1, deal 2, and then later in the game it's pay 1, deal 4. I mean, what's there to complain about? Very good controlling the board that way, and it's a quick spell, so it's good. We play 3 Shapeshifting Mage. Let's be honest, this is probably one of the most value followers there is in Dragon, and there's no reason to not be playing this. It's such a cheap cost, and once you get later in the game, these become 5/5s. It is just for just 2 play points is insane. The Evo form, I think everyone at this point is very familiar with. It has a Sail and Bane, making it a very good, cheap, effective way to get rid of big threats your opponent plays on the board, especially if they refuse to engage those units or attack with them immediately, and you need to get rid of them before they get engaged. This is how you do it. We play it as a 2 of because we need extra space here in the list for Bellringer Angel, but the biggest thing we're worried about is early aggression, so it's not that important that we don't play 3. We're playing Dragon, so obviously we need our way to ramp. Dragon Oracle, 3 of, always in every Dragon list essentially, and then occasionally the second part you get to draw a card instead if you want. It comes up occasionally, not all the time. Next we play 2 Ayala, Dragon Knight. This is the best worst card in Dragoncraft. Let's be honest with ourselves. I never want to draw this past like turn 4 or something. But before that, if I draw this and slam it on the board, it's okay. It sucks in some matchups, like against Havencraft, when they can banish it so you don't get the last word effect once it gets sent to the cemetery. But we're playing a list that wants to at least try to ramp twice before like we go off. If you can get 2 ramps out, so like a lot of plays, you're just gonna like Dragon Oracle and then slam something like an Ayala out if they're not being too aggressive. If your opponent doesn't get rid of it, that's 3 free damage, and it also has a Cell, so you can attack some of their cards that they leave in reserve or standing, that is, and crash those into things to trade into them to be able to get that last maximum play point, empty play point. It's like I said, it's the best worst card in Dragoncraft in my opinion. 3 of Dragon Warrior, obviously this card is so value. There's games where you play against aggro, you decide to drop Bellringer on 1. For some reason if they don't play anything, then you can just go ahead and ramp into something, or into a free play point orb. But if they play something, you usually end up evoing Bellringer Angel. But on the turns that you're able to turn 2 Dragon Oracle, it automatically turns on your turn 3 Dragon Warrior, which is really powerful since Dragon Warrior's Evo form is on Evo. It becomes a 4/4, and then you select an enemy follower and deal 3 damage to it. So Dragon Warrior often becomes a 2-for-1, especially on like turn 2 Dragon Oracle ramp into Dragon Warrior Evo. It's very, very powerful. So we're playing Flaming Glass, so obviously we need to play 3 Harnessed Flame, 3 Harnessed Glass. Harnessed Flame is the significantly worse one because this is what gets us to be able to create Flaming Glass or pull it out from our deck. Opening multiple of these in your hand is like the worst possible scenario ever, because it's very hard to mulligan that hand afterwards, because if you mull mull that hand and there's like two harnessed flames in it, then you know for a fact you're not going to be able to cheat out. You're not going to be able to cheat out Flaming Glass. So sometimes you're forced to hold bad hands if your game plan is just to slam Harnessed Flame, to slam Flaming Glass, that is. Now, Harnessed Glass is actually a relatively decent card for everything. Its stat line is very good. It's a 2/3. 2/3 for 3 is not very like optimal, but the fact that it has 3 health makes it slightly more awkward for other players to deal with. They can't just like Angelic Snipe it away or something like that. The extra one health does a lot for this. So there are turns and game plans where you can just slam this on 3 and go, do you have an out to this on 3? If you don't, turn 4 happens and I could possibly Flaming Glass you on turn 4, which is insane. A lot of times this card basically has a invisible text on the text box itself saying ward, because if this card is on the board, if your opponent has to respect it. Let's be honest. If they don't respect it, they literally on turn 4 they could potentially just lose the game immediately by getting cheesed out by having Flaming Glass come out on turn 4, which is insane. Otherwise, the other text in this is actually pretty solid overall. So like if you play this out early, you don't feel the worst about it, because it's come into play effect, fanfare, is you draw a card, then put a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. So this lets you hand filter some bad pieces out of your hand, or some like heavy pieces that you know you won't be able to play this game. A lot of times if you draw into Flaming Glass itself, you know, you're just going to bottom deck it for a better card, essentially. Another cool thing about Flaming Glass in general, like Harness Flame and Harness Glass, is that this is one of the few ways, like using this effect is one of the few ways you get to shuffle your deck as Dragon. Like there are other cards you can play that make you shuffle your deck, but unlike other versions of the Dragoncraft lists, a lot of times when someone mulls something away in these lists, it's gone forever, because we don't have effects that are normally played in most decks that shuffle Dragoncraft decks right now. So even though you mull something really good away early on, like say for example, like you mull away a Path of Purgatory or like 2 Fortes or something like that, right? As long as you get Flaming Glass off and pull this sucker out of your deck, you get to shuffle your deck. Which means now those like 4 cards on the bottom of your deck you thought you would not be able to ever see again are technically live again. That's just something worth thinking about, I think, or worth noting about. We play 2 of Zenitra. This card I have a love and hate relationship with. I think this card is amazing when it's good, and then a lot of times I look at it in my hand and I'm like, this card does nothing. What's really cool about this card, though, at least in this deck, is that because when you hit 10 play points with this list, you can do plays like play Zenitra, use her effect to pull out the dragon token. Then that brings you back up to 7 play points, which is enough to be able to slam Harness Glass and then Harness Flame, pop off, and get a Flaming Glass. That makes you have a pretty wide board, and usually Flaming Glass can clear the board with its strike effect, which we'll talk about later. But because of that, you can go kind of wide. On the same turn, you go into Flaming Glass when you have 10 mana, and usually the way Dragon works, you're going to be like 1 to 2 play points ahead of your opponent all the time because of the ramp, and sometimes you'll get really lucky and get like 3, and so your opponent might only be going into 7 or 8 mana on the turn you go that wide with a Flaming Glass that just blew up their board. So it presents some very scary boards easily. Other times, you know, in aggro matches and stuff like this card is okay to slam on 3, and then if they don't get rid of it, then you can pull out the dragon immediately, and you have this 5/5 dragon on turn 4 that they have to deal with, and that leaves like 2 play points left open if you need to do like Dragon Oracle, or if you just want to slam a Shapeshifting Mage on 4, or that you can keep it up for like a Blazing Breath and slam. You can slam Bellringer Angel. But yeah, card's pretty good when it's good, and pretty mediocre as hell when it's mediocre as hell. I got not much to say about that. Sometimes it feels like this card is dead in my hand sometimes, but you got to recognize that this card does put in a lot of work. We play 3 Serpent's Wrath. So a lot of times there are turns where we just like do the combo Harness Flame and Glass when we have 10 mana, and it leaves us floating 3, so we can always threaten Serpent's Wrath. The fact that this card deals 5 damage and also draws a card once you hit Overflow is very, very good, because it replaces itself while removing a card. The other reason this card's very good is like you play into D-Shift and stuff like that. you just have to have this card to get rid of their penguin sometimes, even if you have to play it on 3. Sometimes it sucks that you have to play it on 3, but you just got to do it because you can't let people have that much gas, especially against you when you're also trying to like build up a board they can't deal with. Because if you let like D-Shift decks just throw everything into their graveyard and get as much gas as they want, you're gonna lose that game every single time. And then besides that, 5 damage is still pretty good for 3 on a quick as well, which is solid card honestly solid card overall. A lot of I can't imagine playing Dragon really without at least playing like 3 copies of this, because the fact that it draws is really good. You know, for everyone who's played Dragon knows that you have no search, no consistency, really good consistency tools. So anything that lets us draw or filter is always going to be very solid for Dragon. Next, we play 2 paths. We need to see Flaming Glass, right? We need to see Harness Flame and Harness Glass. So we just need the gas. And Path to Purgatory is the best gas generating card there is. And the fact that health doesn't matter too much for us because we get to play a broken card called Shenlong in Dragon, we don't really mind giving up that health. There are sometimes too where you can go down, pop Path of Purgatory, drop multiple wards, and now your opponent has to have no board and has to get through wards to be able to, you know, in the game against you. It gets really awkward and really tough for people, and it makes people play around Path of Purgatory if you drop it on early too, which is like really spooky for some people. But yeah, Path of Purgatory, very good gas tool. Usually like playing Harness Flame and Harness Glass is technically a -1 but hopefully Flaming Glass gets so much value if the turn comes out that losing an extra card doesn't matter that much. But at least Path of Purgatory gets you back that card advantage, so you don't ever have to really worry about your hand size too much if you play one of these once a game. We don't play 3 because I think 3 in a deck is a little bit, you know, you're asking for too much there. Play one of the best cards in Dragon right now, Dark Dragoon Forte. Oh my god, I don't know why I had so much trouble saying that. It's a 5/1 Storm for 4 that for 2 more play points you get you get the Evo form, which has Storm and Aura. Storm and Aura, 7 damage straight to the face, is very aggressive. Whenever you get a chance to just like slip in 7 damage, I mean, this is for 6 mana, this is a good card to slam. You know, it's very hard to deal with too since it has Aura, since your opponent can't target it. And it gets very annoying for your opponent. They have to crash something into it. I mean, card is super good. I don't know why I'm even explaining it at this point. It's like if you play Dragoncraft, you're playing it for Forte and ramping. Like that's what you're playing the deck for, I feel like. I guess also Shenlong's pretty busted too. We play Shenlong. This guy's a beast. What can I say? He comes into play, draw 2, ditch 1. Once again, we don't have search or anything like that, so all we can do is really hand filter and draw more cards until we hopefully draw into the pieces we need. It has ward itself, which is good, so it's a 4/5 ward on 5. Shenlong always feels good to play. We play 3 of the Evo form because we do give up some of our early protection, I want to say, sorta, by giving up on some other things in this list. And so if people go too wide, sometimes it's kind of tough for us to immediately deal with. That's why we play 3 of the Evo, because being able to heal 15 is insane, honestly, because not a lot of other classes can do that while getting so much benefit out of it like us. Also, like, it leaves up 4 play points, so a lot of times you can do things like Zenitra, Summon Dragon, play Shenlong, and then use the remaining points to Evo, leaving you with 1 open after that, which means that you get a hold of Blazing Breath in hand to, you know, respond with, or you can slam another ward. Bellringer Angel, you know, always good. But yeah, the big thing here, the reason we play 3 is the healing is way more important in this deck than I think other people realize. For example, in the Swordcraft matchup, like, you want the game to go as long as possible because they will run out of gas most of the times if you play very conservatively and get the heals off and make sure you're always out of range of being basically stormed to death by accident. Yeah, I mean, health is good. We play 1 of Genesis Dragon. I have a love-hate relationship with this card. Like, I think on paper it like seems okay, but whenever I play this card, I feel like it sucks. But I can't argue with the fact that we are ramping 1 to 2 times more than our opponent, which means on turn 9, if they're not careful, they're after their turns, like 7 or 6, and you're and they have no ward out, slamming Genesis Dragon for 9 play points and hitting them 10 faces pretty good no matter what. I don't feel like we really need Genesis Dragon in this list, honestly. I've considered cutting it for like an execution or something else completely to like balance out this list more. But I'm also a believer that Genesis Dragon, especially like at high counts of Genesis Dragon, like 2 is the maximum I can feel like a deck should ever have. But I've seen some lists out there run 3. I know Dean runs 3 in his Flaming Glass list himself, but he plays more of a budget version of this. Doesn't play Forte and stuff like that, which I think if you can afford it, I think Forte is always going to be good to have. But sometimes, top decking Genesis Dragon and slamming 10 to face is always good. Finally, we play 3 Flaming Glass because since we ramp so much in this, we get to 10 play points before our opponent. So usually there are scenarios where you harness flame, harness glass here. You use their effect. You slam this out. It gets answered, and then like a couple turns later, you can just start slamming these from hand. Flaming Glass over and over again to blow up their board and do 7 damage to their face. So the big thing about Flaming Glass, what makes it so good, is its strike effect is it deals 3 damage to each of followers in the field. But if there's a Harness Flame and Harness Glass in your cemetery, this deals 7 damage instead. So you should generally always have Harness Flame and Harness Glass in your cemetery whenever you have this card out. Things that get you there too, like even if you don't end up playing these cards, like for example, say you don't play Harnessed Flamed out for its effect, but you have ways to discard it. You have Shenlong, which discards it, which helps you put it into your cemetery, whereas you don't mind playing Harnessed Flame, Harnessed Glass that is, onto the board. So if it gets destroyed by your opponent's follower or spell or something like that, it's usually the one that's always going to be in there in your cemetery anyway from not using the effect of Harnessed Flame. So you have ways to like I said, you have ways to discard this. A lot of times too, I found myself going over hand size a little bit after like slamming Path, and that gives me the opportunity to drop Harness Flame out of my hand that way to activate Flaming Glass. One thing to note though, I haven't been in any scenario yet where I haven't had Harnessed Flame and Harness Glass in my cemetery, so I don't know what it's like when you have Flaming Glass without that in the cemetery. It's probably infinitely worse to be playing this card if you can just like slam Genesis Dragon or something on the board, unless you know this like 3 damage is going to wipe the board. Yeah, so that is the list there. I'll go through the Evos really quick. 1 of Bellringer Angel. The Evo is good as a 1 of always because it stops aggression. A lot of times, turn 1, you Bellringer, don't engage. Turn 2, your opponent plays something. You Evo this, kill the thing they're played, then engage the follower, and then they run something in, and you get a card back. Very, very good, slows down aggro players a lot. 2 Shape-Shifting Mage. Card is super good. That's super value. I honestly think, like, in a way, I almost think this card's better than Forte in this list and better than Shenlong. But you can't really argue with Shenlong. Shenlong, I just feels so good. But it's one of the best. I think one of the best followers in Dragon. Next, Dragon Warrior. I mean, solid card, 2-for-1 card. What can I say? We play it as a 2 of. We play 2 of Forte. If you don't like having 3 Shenlong, you can play 3 Forte or something. I just like having the aggressive game plan with playing 3-2 split of Forte. I think the third one is not needed as much. I know some people disagree and they'd rather have 3 Evos for Forte. But I'm finding I don't need to ever Evo Forte more than twice a game. And then, like I said at the end, 3 Shenlong Evos. Card is busted as ward, 5/6, gain 5 on Evo on a card that's already by itself really, really good. Like if this had no Evo, this card still would be played Dragon. It's just that good. Yeah, and it slows down your opponent and lets you restabilize, and you can start slamming Flaming Glass over and over and over again. There have been games where I've tripled Shenlong and my opponent over there groaning as I slam Flaming Glass also and blowing up their board once they've already been behind. But yeah, that's the list. I hope you guys like it. Honestly, if you are interested in Flaming Glass, I think this is a fun list to try out. Like I said, not 100% convinced this is like a top tier list to be running around, but if you are bored with your normal Dragoncraft list, give this one a shot if you want to try something with Flaming Glass. Besides that, I hope to see you guys in our next deck profile video. Like, comment, subscribe. If you guys have been experimenting with Flame and Glass, let us know what you think or what you've done in Dragoncraft. Maybe you think it's better in a different craft. I've seen some lists running Flame and Glass in Haven, which is pretty interesting, since Haven's game plan is to be more controlling until they can start dropping their big threats or getting value out of their Holy Sentinel, I believe is the amulet, and summoning all those tigers. So I'm interested to hear what you guys have been doing with Flame and Glass, because I think it's a very fun card to build around in set 1 when we only have 1 booster. Besides that, yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys are subscribing and liking.